Imagine walking into your backyard and seeing a wall of blooming flowers, yet every piece of it was once a plastic bottle tossed aside. Picture a tower of colors rising from recycled bottles, herbs that water themselves, and whimsical creatures shaped from yesterday's trash. What once looked like garbage now glows as treasure, alive with life and beauty. Stay with me, because in this video, you'll discover bottle garden creations that don't just look magical, they truly work. Welcome to Mind Over Decoration, where ordinary trash turns into extraordinary garden art. Here, we blend creativity, sustainability, and a touch of whimsy to inspire your outdoor spaces. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your country or city in the comments, I read every single one. And if you enjoy ideas like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, so you won't miss the next burst of inspiration. Imagine a garden where colors rise toward the sky, not from expensive pots, but from bottles once discarded and forgotten. At first glance, it's just a simple column, layer upon layer of plastic bottles stacked carefully together. Yet when touched by soil and seeded with flowers, it becomes a tower of life, a pillar of blossoms that stretches upward like hope itself. Each bloom clings to its tiny pocket, cascading down in waves of red, yellow, and violet. Sunlight slips between petals, scattering reflections on the glossy surfaces of the bottles, making the ordinary shimmer with unexpected beauty. The tower seems to whisper, transformation is possible, even for what the world has thrown away. Standing tall in the corner of a backyard, it draws the eye instantly, like a beacon of renewal. It is both humble and striking, achievable and magical, reminding us that creativity doesn't always require new things, only a new way of seeing. And just beyond, another idea waits to unfold, carrying us further into the world of gardens built from imagination and forgotten objects. Picture a line of simple bottles, their tops cut and inverted, resting like small chalices of green life. Inside, basil stretches tender leaves toward the sun, mint spills fragrance with every breeze, and parsley curls into vibrant folds. At the bottom, water quietly waits, climbing upward through a strip of fabric or cotton wick, feeding the roots in silence, a hidden gift of nourishment. This is the beauty of the self-watering herb bottle, humble yet ingenious. No constant tending, no fear of forgetting to water. The bottle becomes both pot and caretaker, offering life even as it carries the memory of once being discarded. In their simplicity, these planters speak of balance, between effort and ease, between what we use and what we give back. They teach us that even in neglect, growth can find a way, so long as we prepare the path. Placed by a window, balcony, or garden corner, they create a living pharmacy of flavors and scents, always within reach. A reminder that small acts of creativity can bloom into daily rituals of freshness and care. From here, our journey rises higher, into walls that turn forgotten bottles into living tapestries of green. Imagine a bare wooden fence, plain and silent, now reborn as a living tapestry. Row upon row of bottles cling to its surface, each one cut open like a pocket, cradling roots and soil. Out of these humble shells, life spills downward, vines weaving like threads of green, herbs spreading fragrance, blossoms adding strokes of color against the muted wall. The vertical pocket wall is not just gardening, it is transformation made visible. What once separated spaces now connects them, turning emptiness into abundance. Every bottle becomes a frame in a larger canvas, each plant a brushstroke in nature's painting. There is a quiet harmony in this arrangement, efficiency for small spaces, beauty for the eye, and sustenance for the kitchen. It proves that gardening does not demand endless land, only imagination and care. As sunlight travels across the wall, shadows dance among the leaves, reminding us of cycles, of growth, renewal, and time reshaping what we thought was waste. From this wall of life, our journey now leads us to creations even more unexpected, where bottles unite not just in lines, but in sweeping structures that reach toward the sky. At first glance, it looks like glass, walls shimmering as they catch the sun. Yet step closer, and you see the truth, hundreds of plastic bottles, cut and stacked together, forming translucent panels that hold light like captured water. This is the bottle greenhouse, a place where forgotten waste becomes shelter for new beginnings. Inside, tender seedlings push through the soil, cradled in warmth. The bottles filter sunlight into a gentle glow, protecting young leaves from harsh winds while keeping the earth moist below. Each panel tells a story of patience, how what once held soda or water can now hold the promise of tomorrow's harvest. There is something deeply poetic here, the discarded nurturing the fragile, the unwanted shielding what is precious. It is a reminder that resilience comes not from perfection, but from reinvention. As you stand within this humble structure, you feel a quiet reverence. The air is warmer, softer, alive with the breath of plants growing stronger each day. From trash, a sanctuary is born, proof that beauty thrives where creativity dares to see it. From here, our journey takes us back into playfulness, where bottles become more than panels, they transform into creatures that spark joy and wonder. In the quiet of a garden corner, laughter seems to bloom among the flowers. Here, bottles have been reborn not as plain containers, but as cheerful companions, animals sculpted with paint and care, each one cradling a burst of color. A swan stretches its neck in elegant curve, carrying marigolds like golden feathers. A cat planter smiles with playful eyes, its back brimming with petunias. A frog, squat and content, becomes home to a spray of daisies that look like they might leap away at any moment. These creations remind us that gardens are not only about order and harvest, but about joy. They invite children to smile, neighbors to pause, and visitors to ask, "How did you make that?" The once discarded plastic now wears a costume of whimsy, its former life invisible beneath strokes of paint and the freshness of blossoms. In their simplicity, these bottle animals carry something timeless, the way playfulness keeps the heart light, the way small touches bring magic into ordinary days. They whisper that beauty need not always be serious, sometimes, it is best when it makes us laugh. And as the garden fills with their company, we move onward to discover how bottles can nurture life in quieter, more practical ways, watering plants drop by drop, unseen yet essential. Sometimes, the most important work in a garden happens unseen. The drip irrigator bottle rests quietly at the base of a plant, its presence almost invisible. Yet within it, water gathers and releases slowly, drop by drop, feeding roots with patience. There is no rush, no flood, just a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat for the soil. Around it, leaves remain fresh even in the heat of the day. The earth stays damp, not parched, and the plants respond with steady growth, grateful for the silent care. What once held only a single use is now a guardian of life, extending its purpose beyond what was intended. This hack reminds us that nurturing does not always require grand gestures. Sometimes it is the quiet, consistent acts that sustain the most. In the same way, these bottles teach us that resilience is not about abundance, but about constancy, providing just enough, right where it is needed. In the hush of the afternoon garden, the drip irrigator is a reminder of balance, between effort and rest, between giving and receiving. And as it waters unseen, we turn to creations that shine more openly, bottles that bring not only life, but light itself. As daylight fades, the garden begins to glow with its own quiet magic. Suspended from branches and beams, bottles once destined for the bin now shine as lanterns, each one holding a pocket of light. Some are painted in soft colors, scattering gentle hues across leaves and pathways. Others remain clear, magnifying the flicker of a candle within. The chandelier effect is enchanting. Clusters of bottles casting overlapping halos, like stars drawn down to earth. Beneath their glow, conversations linger longer, laughter softens, and the garden becomes a place not just of growth, but of gathering. What was waste now offers warmth, what was ordinary now feels ceremonial. There is poetry in their simplicity. Light, the oldest companion of humankind, joins hands with plastic, the most modern of materials, to create something timeless, proof that beauty arises where contrasts meet. The bottles, once vessels of fleeting use, now hold memories, of evenings spent outdoors, of meals shared, of stories told under their glow. And as the night deepens, the lights remind us that even discarded things can illuminate, and even endings can become beginnings. From light, we return to color, painted designs that turn bottles into art as vibrant as any bloom. Some bottles carry stories long after they've been emptied, not in their labels, but in the strokes of color we choose to give them. Painted bottle pots are more than planters, they are small canvases scattered across the garden, where imagination meets soil. Bright stripes dance across one, floral motifs bloom across another, and geometric patterns create rhythm among the leaves. In the sunlight, the colors come alive. Reds and blues shimmer against the green, yellows sparkle beside marigolds, and whites shine crisp and clean. Each pot holds not only a plant, but the handprint of its maker, the quiet joy of creating something beautiful from what was once destined for the trash. They turn a corner of the backyard into an open-air gallery, where nature and art embrace one another. The flowers spill outward as if completing the painting, adding texture and fragrance to each design. Children see them as playful, neighbors see them as creative, and gardeners see them as proof that beauty is always within reach. And just as these painted bottles brighten a wall or path, the next idea shows how even the borders of a garden can be shaped with imagination, lined by bottles standing tall in rows of color and glass. Along the winding paths of a garden, borders quietly shape the story of space. With plastic bottles turned upside down, half buried in the soil, the once disposable forms now stand like soldiers of color, guiding the eye and keeping order among the blooms. Each bottle, painted or left clear, catches the light differently, some glowing softly, others shimmering with bright hues. The edging creates a rhythm along the pathways, a line of repetition that frames the flowers, highlights the vegetables, and gives every bed its own boundary. What might have been clutter now feels intentional, as though each curve of the garden were drawn by hand. There is satisfaction in this simplicity. Bottles that once rolled across the floor or crowded cupboards now serve a purpose both functional and beautiful. They remind us that order need not be bought, it can be made, patiently, with what we already have. As you walk the bordered paths, the sound of crunching leaves underfoot and the sight of plants neatly framed by glass bring a quiet joy. And beyond these borders lies another transformation, where bottles no longer just edge the soil, but rise upward as miniature rivers of green, feeding life in flowing cascades. still clarity of water, roots reach downward, weaving silently in search of nourishment. Above, leaves stretch upward, lush and green, their growth powered not by soil but by the quiet alchemy of water and nutrients. These are bottles reborn as vessels of life, transparent, simple, and extraordinary in their transformation. The mini hydroponic setup feels almost futuristic, yet it is made from the most ordinary of things, discarded plastic. What once carried soda or water now cradles lettuce, basil, and mint, offering harvests of freshness from a corner table or windowsill. There is wonder in watching the process unfold, roots visible through the bottle sides, leaves thriving in a balance carefully held by water alone. This creation is more than gardening, it is a glimpse of possibility. It whispers of sustainability, of feeding families in tight spaces, of teaching children how growth can happen anywhere. And it proves that innovation need not be expensive, only imaginative. As sunlight catches the bottles, turning them into shimmering vessels of life, you realize, the garden does not end at the soil. It expands into water, into air, into every idea that allows life to thrive. And next, bottles rise once more, not as gardens for people, but as offerings for creatures that share the earth with us. In the hush of the morning, when the air is cool and soft, the garden awakens with wings. From branches and posts, simple bottles hang, transformed into feeders and fountains. Seeds spill gently into waiting beaks, and clear water shimmers in the sun, a mirror where birds pause to drink. The bottles are humble, yet their gift is immense. They turn a backyard into a sanctuary, inviting sparrows, finches, and robins to visit daily. Each bird becomes a fleeting guest, adding song and movement to the stillness of plants. In their company, the garden feels alive in ways that flowers alone could never offer. There is tenderness in this act of upcycling, not just creating beauty for ourselves, but care for the small companions who share our skies. A feeder made from waste becomes a promise that what we discard can nourish life, that kindness can be built from the simplest things. As feathers scatter sunlight and the air fills with song, the garden becomes more than a place of growth. It becomes a place of belonging. And from nurturing birds, we return to nurturing ourselves, with bottles rising again as vertical gardens rich with herbs and flavor. Against a plain wall or beneath the beams of a pergola, bottles sway gently in the breeze. Once empty and forgotten, they now cradle pockets of earth where herbs take root. Basil lifts its fragrant leaves toward the light, mint tumbles down in cool cascades, and parsley curls with quiet abundance. Each bottle becomes both vessel and cradle, turning airspace into a garden. There is charm in the way they hang, rows of green that transform blank spaces into living murals. Their simplicity carries elegance, their practicality carries delight. With little more than scissors, soil, and imagination, the ordinary is reborn as useful, fresh, and beautiful. This hanging garden is more than decor, it is daily nourishment. To step outside and pluck herbs from bottles swaying in the sunlight is to live in rhythm with nature, even in the smallest of spaces. It is a reminder that gardens can grow upward as easily as outward, that beauty can be suspended as well as planted in the ground. And as these herbs lend their fragrance to the breeze, we move onward into whimsy, where bottles no longer simply hold plants but shine with soft light, glowing as fairy lanterns beneath the night sky. When night begins to fall, the garden stirs with quiet enchantment. Along the paths and beneath the branches, small houses seem to appear, bottles painted with tiny windows, crooked doors, and shingled roofs, glowing softly from within. Their light spills out in gentle pools, as though fairies had taken up residence in forgotten plastic. Each lantern tells a story. One flickers with a golden glow, another blushes with hints of color, each inviting the imagination to wander. Children see villages where fairies play, adults see warmth, nostalgia, and a return to childhood wonder. The bottles, once lifeless, now carry the spark of magic, proving that beauty is not only about function, but about delight. There is a sweetness to the way they transform the night, turning an ordinary backyard into a place of mystery and charm. Beneath their glow, conversation slow, the air feels softer, and time itself seems to rest. And as these whimsical houses guide the way through the darkness, we turn once again toward the earth, where bottles serve not for light, but for life, helping transform waste into fertile soil and nourishment through the humble art of composting. Not every garden treasure blooms with petals or shines with light. Some treasures lie in the quiet work of the earth itself, like a bottle filled with scraps, leaves, and time. This is the bottle compost starter, small, humble, and unassuming, yet carrying the power to return life to the soil. Layer by layer, the bottle holds transformation. Orange peels, wilted leaves, coffee grounds, all dissolve slowly into a dark, rich mixture. Through its transparent sides, you can watch decay become rebirth, waste become nourishment. The plastic once used for convenience now becomes a vessel of patience, teaching us that even in endings, beginnings are waiting. There is philosophy in composting. It reminds us that nothing truly disappears, it only changes form, feeding the cycle that sustains us all. Each bottle becomes a miniature earth, showing us the alchemy of life in its most honest form. Placed beside the garden beds, these mini bins whisper silently, "Give back what you take." And from their dark soil, new shoots rise stronger, brighter, more resilient. From the grounded work of composting, we now turn to a vision of movement and sound, where bottles do not just feed the soil, but dance with flowing water as fountains of creativity. In the heart of the garden, a melody of water begins to play. From one level to the next, bottles guide the flow, trickling gently downward, carrying light and sound as they move. Alongside the stream, plants take root in the very vessels that channel the water, their leaves glistening as droplets kiss their edges. This bottle cascade fountain is both sculpture and sustenance, a dance between nature and imagination. The sound is soothing, like whispers over stones, a rhythm that calms the mind while feeding the soil below. What was once an object of waste now becomes a source of peace, offering refreshment to plants, people, and even the spirit. There is something timeless about water in the garden. Its movement catches the eye, its sound stills the heart. And when combined with greenery and blooms, it creates a sanctuary where every sense is touched. The bottles, humble in their origin, seem to vanish into the beauty of the whole, proving that transformation can be complete. As sunlight glitters on the surface of each droplet, the fountain becomes a final reminder that even what we discard has the power to flow back into our lives with grace, beauty, and purpose. And there you have it, 15 ways to turn plastic bottles into a garden that's not only functional but also full of magic. Now it's your turn. Which idea would you try first, and what plants would you grow in it? Let me know in the comments. I can't wait to read your answers. If this video sparked your imagination, please give it a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe to join our growing community of creative dreamers. Until next time, keep creating beauty, right where you are.